Hello everyone, this is the Action Figuratorium. My name is Mark Major. I am a owner-operator of a commercial video facility located in Southeast Portland, Oregon. I'm also a real big toy collector, and one of the things that I like to do is marketing analysis of action figure Kickstarter campaigns. Now, I have some objective sort of pillars of best practice that I apply to these campaigns when I do my analysis, but I also like to riff and give my unmitigated opinions as well. So today what we're going to be looking at is sort of a redo of a previous campaign that I looked at back in January called Fist Action Figures, basically Orcs in Space. Except now instead of being 6 inches, they're 4 inches, and they are O-ring action figures, and they're actually being produced by a different Kickstarter manufacturer who is taking over the production of these figures if they get funded. So the whole thing should be really interesting to look at. Why don't you guys stick around? Okay, let's switch over to a desktop. Here we go. Oh, look at that. The production value has just doubled on the show. Let's start off by looking at the accoutrements of the Kickstarter campaign. This is by Zika Toys. They've done some in the past. This is called RetrOs. Classic style 3.75 O-ring action figures, for those of you who are not familiar with that. That's basically this type of 80s G.I. Joes that look like this. They're two pieces kind of held together by a little metal hook and a rubber band called an O-ring. If the O-ring breaks, what do? You buy another O-ring. It's pretty much that simple. All right, let's switch back over here and double our production value again. Let's see exactly what these guys are selling in terms of the product and the rewards. They have total of 6 different action figures. Notice there's no video up here, just want to point that out. It's these two guys here. This is kind of, I sort of think of him as a space cop. And this guy here is sort of another commando, sort of space cop without his helmet on. I think that's kind of cool. And then we get a couple of these guys. They're this sort of group called Safe. I don't know if that refers to safety or if that's something where you put your belongings, but we got this guy's got kind of like a World War II German helmet or maybe like a biker helmet, and this guy's got a red beret. I think of these guys as sort of space bikers, orc space bikers. And then there's a couple more guys who are just sort of more guys. There's this guy, sort of your commando with grenades, and then another guy is sort of your commando with a gas mask. I don't know if any of you have ever seen that the mural at the Denver airport, but this could be an action figure for that soldier. Just needs a trench coat. Okay, now, what are these guys asking for? Well, they're asking for $30,000. They have currently raised $9,000. I think that's pretty good. They have 23 days to go. They need $21,000, so that's about $1,000 a day. Is that impossible? No, it's not impossible. Is it going to happen? We'll find out. Let's give it 23 days and see where they land. So what they're trying to do is get 25 bucks a figure. There is no discount for getting multiples until you get to 10. Once you buy 10, you can get them for $22 each. Okay, so if you get one, 25 bucks, you get two, 50 bucks, 3, 75, 400, etc., etc. Make sure everybody knows what's going on. Also, there's no extra tchotchkes, there's no coins, there's no keychains, there's not a digital comic, there's not a real comic, there's not any kind of a bookmark or a poster or anything like that. It's just 6 action figures, 25 bucks each, O-ring style. That's the gist of it. Okay, now let us do a little bit of analysis with this by talking about, first of all, the 3 best practices which I came up with by looking at some successful Kickstarters within like the sort of the last 12 months. These were Savage Crucible, Biblical Adventures, Almighty Legends, and Odious. There was actually a few more unsuccessful that I would like to footnote as well. but those 4 main ones came up with these 3 main principles. There were some lesser principles as well, but these 3 are really the only ones that I kind of hold anybody to. So let's go through these real quick and see how they apply. The first thing is you need to have 3-tier pricing. And what that means is you got to have a product that is super cheap that anyone can buy. It's the bottom of the pyramid. Then you need to have a deluxe thing in the middle that is a little more expensive for people who have a little bit more money, willing to pay a little bit more money if they get a little bit more product. And then you need to have the top of the pyramid, a luxury item that is there for the sole purpose of being a luxury item. It doesn't have necessarily the kind of value added to it with its price. It's just an expensive thing for people who actually have that much money that will pay for something if it's for sale. Okay, next thing is we found that the wider selection of action figures and toys they had for sale, the larger the gross was, okay? Just makes sense. That was something that I thought, like, well, it might be easier if you simplified and just had one guy. Turns out the more guys, the more money. And last, put all of your marketing info on your Kickstarter page. If someone says, hey, well, it'd be cool if there was a weapons pack, and you say, well, there is a weapons pack, and they say, well, where is it? And you're like, well, it's not pictured here. You need to have it up on your page. Anything that you're going to be selling, have your best graphic, video, etc. If you do some podcast interviews, put links in updates, etc., that kind of stuff. You know, put everything on the page. Don't make people hunt because they're not going to. They don't care. Trust me. I'm one of those people. All right, so let's move on, shall we? Back to this Kickstarter campaign. And first of all, do we have the 3-tier pricing? We do not. We have one single tier, $25. Now, for Horseman Mythic Legions, their generic, I don't want to say generic, but their like basic offering figure is $37. For $25, even though it is 4-inch, slightly smaller, that comes in less than a Mythic Legions figure, which I'm using as kind of the benchmark. I would say it's definitely a cheap item, but that's all they got. They only have cheap item. They don't have deluxe, and they don't have a luxury item here. They just have this. So could be some concerns with that, why they're not able to pull as much money. They don't have a way for people who have more money to give them more money. Once you've bought the 6 guys, that's it. And as I mentioned, the only way that you can get these cheaper is if you get to 10 guys. That means you're going to be buying duplicates of some guys to get to 10 guys because they're only offering 6 guys. Okay, and the last thing is all of their details on the Kickstarter page. From what I can see here, it looks like it. They have pictures of all the figures. They talk about it. They show you some of the parts. They talk about their track record, Zika toys, etc., etc. Okay, let's move on now to the final part of this analysis, and this is where I give a sort of unmitigated opinion on the toys themselves and a little bit about the campaign, right? For those of you that don't know, back in January, I did a review of this Kickstarter called Fist Action Figures, and these were 6-inch guys, 1/12 scale, and as you can see here, by looking at these 2 guys, Space Cop, and then you've got sort of Techno Viking here, right? We can see that it is it's the same guys, because what happened was Zika Toys is doing the production on this, but this guy, Esteban, who is a digital sculptor, he is providing the IP. He is providing the designs, and Zika Toys just happen to like the designs, and so they're doing kind of a team-up, but these are going under the Zika Toys brand. I guess it allows him to continue to put out more toys and sort of build his own sort of reputation and maybe make a little bit of money along the way, assuming it is successful. So we have seen these guys before, and the comment that I made previously on these guys was that although they look competent, they look really good, they're all really well done, they didn't move the needle as far as originality per se. They just look like more G.I. Joes and Valaverse and that kind of stuff, especially these modern guys. I did think that the Orcs were interesting, but they're just orc heads put on regular bodies. And my suggestion then was to maybe just come out with a head pack of orc guys, and then you buy a head pack and you get your Cobra bats or vipers or whatever people have, and pop the heads and make like an orc biker gang out of them, that kind of thing. You know, that's that's what I was suggesting. I think that's what people liked. That was what was interesting about it, was we got some orc heads out of it, right? And this is kind of simple because you have to ask the question at this point, for 25 bucks a figure, why couldn't I look on eBay? And by the way, we are looking at, I switch over to this website called yojo.com, where they have a database of every 4-inch G.I. Joe that's ever come out. You can search by year and you can see here's the entire roster, and you can click on them and get a bigger picture. For example, if we check this guy out, he's some sort of, look at this guy. He's some sort of like the Tiger King. He's got like this cheetah vest on with his six-pack there, and he's got some sort of like teeth necklace, and look, he's got a pet boar. Who has a pet boar? Who is this guy? Some kind of outback guy. Anyways, you see all sorts of fruity guys, as well as, you know, your standard sort of, you know, military tech guys in the G.I. Joe line. Really nothing different than what this RetrOs Zika Toys thing is doing. And so for 25 bucks a figure, you can look on eBay and you can find just about any of these guys for $25 or less. Why? Because they made these in the millions, all right? They made so many of these. They are not rare. Of course, there's a few guys that are hard to find. Of course, if you want something new on card, it's hard to find. If you're just looking for a Space Ranger, right? If you're just looking for some guy with a bunch of boots and grenades and a helmet, right? They're out there. It's not difficult to find. And then if you want something that's 4-inch that looks really cool and articulated and sculpted and decoed out, of course you're going to look at Joy Toy. I think they're the top of the pack. You're going to look at Acid Rain. They are easily a contender. They're the Coke, or the Pepsi to Joy Toys Coke. And then of course there's Marauders Gun Runners, which is like, you know, build a figure at that scale. All of these are competing with this, in addition to all the things on eBay. And so I just don't see these things as being that unusual or unique. These two guys specifically, I do think that there might be a chance for people to get into these orcs or just orc heads. You know, I think that's kind of interesting, but I don't think it's enough. I don't think you can really get $30,000 worth of orc heads out of this campaign. Same thing with these guys. These are just more sort of G.I. Joes from back in the day. And in fact, we saw that Hasbro, their G.I. Joe brand, tried to do O-ring figures, didn't have a good, you know, outing with it recently in the last, you know, 4 or 5 years or so. And now we're hearing that Super 7 is going to be doing O-rings. So these guys are now competing. These 6 figures are competing with Super 7. That makes it even more difficult to stand out. Plus, they're going to have to market these guys and get them in front of everybody. That means sharing them on Facebook, sharing them on Twitter, putting them on Instagram, going on people's podcasts. It's an uphill battle to get these in front of people's faces. I just don't think that they're going to make the $30,000 myself. It's not that I'm trying to be mean. It's not that I don't like these. I actually do like the 2 orc guys. I think they're bigger. I wish there was actually a few more orc guys. In fact, I kind of wish it was just orc guys and like 6 different orc guys, and that's it. I think that would be cool. Do that as your wave 1. If that's successful, come out with a second wave of something else that's like it but not like it. You know, if something works, do more of it, the same but different. So that is my overall take on this campaign. We've still got 23 days to go. What do you guys think? Do you think it's gonna fun? I don't know. Why don't you leave a comment? Best comment could win a t-shirt. Details on that in the comments to follow. I'll see you guys on the next one.